If people don't think nationally and they don't think in terms of now a multiple ethnic identity for Australia, we are almost in a permanent state of volatility. Knowing that a lot of the people who are coming are going to be better qualified than the existing population, knowing that everybody's going to have to live somewhere, knowing that you've got physical infrastructure, you've also got the cohesion question, how do people keep up? Knowing also that you've got some extreme pockets of disadvantage in Australia today that the political system does not know how to cope with.
I think what we most of all need in the national debate is a different narrative about Indigenous people. What was 2 or 3% of the population being Indigenous is increasingly being swamped by the population trends that you've been talking about, George. And Indigenous people, Indigenous leaders are not keeping up with the debate. And so you'll notice that most Indigenous leaders address themselves to old white Australia and have nothing whatsoever to say to multicultural Australia. And I think that is the worst strategic mistake that our Indigenous leaders can make.
The locus of economic activity is focusing towards cities, towards big cities, and towards the centre of big cities. So although you might think that the implication of better information technology would be more an increase in remote working, you would be wrong.
In a way, my big message would be that I think we live at a moment of probably one of the greatest transformations of society that we've ever seen. And I think currently we're trying to really all we're trying to do is kind of use elastoplasters.
Our Australian leaders very much want to play a part in global politics. You know, we are still striving towards a permanent position on the UN, and yet at the same time we are flouting and ignoring our international obligations. So how are we going to get there, and how are we going to be seen seriously as an international player if we're not willing to look at our global responsibilities and commit to them in more profound and sincere and authentic ways?
My state at this time is going through a rapid and profound series of changes brought about essentially by a transformation from an old to a new economy. Many of the staples of economic life, the skills we need to attain, the jobs we do, the things we produce, even the countries we trade with and who becomes part of our country are all in a state of flux.
The reality is, even in a recent McKinsey report, you'll see that private sector wealth, 30% of a balance sheet of a company, is actually a product of societal goods. It's how well society is flourishing. So the idea of independent wealth or private wealth is a convenient illusion. Your house price is linked fundamentally to the well-being of that society which you're in.
Turnbull and Shorten, they're both very positive about immigration and multiculturalism. They speak about it very positively often. But you know, as I said, the problem is in the public imagination now, it's totally conflated with a refugee policy, which they hear spoken about very negatively all the time. And I think that is muddying the waters of the social conversation around these issues.
The South Australian Government have been on this pathway of reforming democracy for some time now, and it's based on the fundamental belief that the quality and durability of public policy will be improved through the greater involvement of citizens. Places like South Australia are undergoing this transformation, and we must find a place for ourselves in the world, and in this environment, the most important qualities we all need to develop are adaptability, an open and outward-looking orientation to the world, and this desire and need to collaborate.